A massive group of House Republicans announced the DOJ and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission could crack down on the WNBA after Caitlin Clark was viciously and violently fouled on the court and is being targeted because she is white.
A massive group of House Republicans just announced the Department of Justice and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission could crack down on the WNBA. Not a fine, not a warning. A federal investigation into whether civil rights laws are being violated on the court.
I was like, the government is about to get involved. They are about to get involved, and they are officially involved. Kathy Engelbert is officially being asked direct questions, and the answers are being demanded by congressmen. The league is in trouble. They've seen enough of the violence towards Caitlin Clark in this league, and
This didn't come out of nowhere. Multiple senators and congressmen have been making comments for weeks now, watching what's been happening to Caitlin Clark on the court. The eye poke from Chennedy Carter, the throat strike from Alyssa Thomas, the body check from Dejanai Carrington. And each time, the league handed down suspensions that felt more like suggestions than consequences. 1 game for Alyssa Thomas after she put her fist in Clark's throat and her knee into her midsection. 1 game. And that's when the government apparently decided they'd seen enough.
Quote, Clark has been hip checked, poked in the eye, and struck in the throat during games. The incidents go far beyond routine physical play, yet the WNBA, its officiating, have too often failed to address these unacceptable incidents and hold players accountable. Recently, a player even appeared to endorse violence against Clark in a social media post.
The letter is specific. It names Caitlin Clark. It lists the incidents. Hip checks, eye pokes, throat strikes, and then it goes further. It says the incidents go far beyond routine physical play, and that the WNBA and its officiating have too often failed to address these unacceptable incidents and hold players accountable. That's not political posturing. That's a formal accusation that the league is failing its legal obligation to provide a safe work environment.
Oh, crap. Was that the Tiffany Hayes? Remember the fan said, we can write out or whatever it was, and she liked the post, seemed to co-sign it. Oh, boy. The government has noticed that.
Then the letter mentions something that should terrify the league office. It says a player appeared to endorse violence against Clark in a social media post. The government noticed when Tiffany Hayes liked a post about fans wanting to write out Caitlin Clark. They're paying attention to the social media pile-on, the culture around these incidents, not just the fouls themselves. This isn't about basketball anymore.
Further fueling concerns about the culture surrounding these incidents. In addition, concerning reports suggest that many of these attacks against Caitlin Clark may be racially motivated. As commissioner, you have an obligation to ensure every player competes in a safe and professional environment, both on and off the court, free from violence, discrimination, or retaliation.
And here's where it gets uncomfortable for everyone involved. The letter explicitly says concerning reports suggest that many of these attacks against Caitlin Clark may be racially motivated. They use those words, racially motivated. That means if the Department of Justice decides to open an investigation, they're not just looking at whether the fouls were flagrant, they're looking at whether a white player is being targeted because she's white, and whether the league is allowing it to happen. That's a Title VII employment discrimination investigation, and it doesn't end with a press release.
If discrimination or retaliation is occurring, creating a hostile work environment, we support any appropriate investigation by the Department of Justice, the Department of Labor, and the EEOC. If true, such conduct could constitute violation of federal civil rights law.
The letter is signed by members of the Republican Study Committee, the largest caucus on Capitol Hill. It's addressed directly to Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, and it gives her a deadline, July 24th. Answer these questions by July 24th, or we're moving to the next step. And the next step is what no sports league wants. Subpoenas, testimony under oath, hearings with C-SPAN cameras running, and every news network watching.
Being asked of the WNBA. This is all the signatures on this. From the congressman involved. We request answers to the following questions by July 24th. This is their way of politely saying, we want these answers. If you will not give it to us, we will drag you up here and demand them on the spot with everybody watching.
The questions themselves are designed to corner the league. Question 1. What is your review mechanism for physical hostility and violence on the court? That's asking the WNBA to explain, on the record, how they decide what gets reviewed and what doesn't. Because right now, it looks arbitrary. Chennedy Carter's blindside hit on Clark wasn't even reviewed as a flagrant until public outrage forced the league to upgrade it retroactively. Question 2. How will you hold players accountable for overly aggressive actions on the court, including towards Caitlin Clark? Notice they named her specifically. They're not asking about player safety in general, they're asking what the league is doing to protect one specific player who keeps getting targeted. And question 3. What steps are you taking to protect WNBA players from online harassment and off-court threats? That one cuts both ways, because it forces the league to address the social media culture that's been amplifying and celebrating the on-court violence.
We are members of the Republican Study Committee, the largest caucus on Capitol Hill, and we are committed to strengthening families and protecting opportunities for women in sports. As the commissioner of the WNBA, you should do the same.
If Kathy Engelbert thought the pressure was bad when ESPN was running segments on this, wait until she's sitting in front of a congressional committee trying to explain why Alyssa Thomas got one game for what looked like an intentional attempt to injure someone. Congressional hearings don't care about your media talking points. They care about liability, federal law, and whether your organization is violating it.
You have officially been put on notice by members of our government. I saw this coming a mile away because I was like, I'm going to tell you when I saw it coming. When they handed Alyssa Thomas a one-game suspension, I said, oh shit, the government's about to get involved in this.
And this isn't just Republicans making noise. Trump himself weighed in. He called Caitlin Clark a wonderful basketball player and said she was treated rather rough. He called what happened to her a pretty bad event. When the sitting president is commenting on your league's internal discipline problems, you've lost control of the narrative completely.
Making comments during the last 2 weeks after the Alyssa Thomas situation. They've made comments in the past. I was like, the government is about to get involved. They are about to get involved, and they are officially involved. Kathy Engelbert is officially being asked.
But let's talk about what this actually means for the WNBA, because a federal investigation doesn't just hurt the league's reputation, it exposes the league's finances. The WNBA loses money every year. It's subsidized by the NBA to the tune of tens of millions of dollars annually. If the Department of Justice or the EEOC opens an investigation and finds that the league failed to provide a safe work environment, or worse, allowed racially motivated targeting, the league could face penalties, settlements, and a public relations disaster that makes the current controversy look like a minor story. Sponsors don't stick around for that, and the NBA, which has been covering the WNBA's losses for years, might start asking whether it's worth the liability.
And the moment they handed down that one-game suspension, I said, the government's about to get involved in this. Because people can watch the NBA and we can see with our own eyes what physical basketball and actual basketball plays look like. And then we can see a lot of things that clearly are not part of the game.
The letter also makes it clear that this isn't just about Caitlin Clark being roughed up on the court. It's about what happens when you let a culture develop where targeting a player is not only tolerated but celebrated. When Chennedy Carter hip-checked Clark to the ground, her teammate Angel Reese stood up and cheered, on camera. When Alyssa Thomas put her fist in Clark's throat, the Suns coaching staff didn't pull her aside. They left her in the game. And when fans online started calling for more violence, players liked the posts. The league saw all of this happening in real time and did almost nothing. That's the pattern Congress is pointing at.
All right, Alyssa Thomas putting her throat, her fist in Caitlin Clark's throat, her knee into Caitlin Clark's private area. That's not a basketball play. All right? There's no excuse for it.
And let's be clear about what the league was trying to avoid here. They were trying to avoid the conversation about race. They were trying to avoid admitting that some of the hostility toward Caitlin Clark is rooted in resentment that a white player is getting the attention, the endorsements, and the media coverage that black players feel they've earned. That's a real conversation, and it's uncomfortable, but ignoring it didn't make it go away. It made it worse. Because now the federal government is asking the question the league refused to ask.
The government steps in. Is that what's happened? Congratulations, you're on Trump's radar. Woo! That's not the radar you want to be on. You want him to make more comments? Do you want him to start asking more and more questions?
The timing of this matters too. The WNBA just had its best season for attendance and ratings in years, almost entirely because of Caitlin Clark. Her games drew crowds, her jersey sales broke records. She brought casual fans and new sponsors to a league that's been struggling for visibility for 2 decades. And instead of protecting that asset, the league let her get beaten up on the court and then acted surprised when people noticed. If you're an investor or a sponsor watching this unfold, you're asking yourself whether the WNBA is capable of managing its own success. Because right now, it looks like they're not.
And this is what the WNBA doesn't want to happen. That's why they want to censor a lot of us, because they don't want this to be on anybody's radar. And unfortunately for them, this last incident went mega nuclear viral across all television networks except MSNBC.
The letter also exposes something the league has been trying to hide, which is that the officiating has been inconsistent to the point of looking intentional. There are plays where Caitlin Clark gets hammered with no call, and then plays where she gets a touch foul called against her for barely making contact. Fans have been pointing this out all season, and the league's response has been to dismiss it as conspiracy theory. But when you have members of Congress saying the officiating has too often failed to address these unacceptable incidents, that's not a conspiracy theory anymore. That's a formal allegation that the refs are either incompetent or biased, and either way the league has a problem.
And they can no longer keep it in their little bubbles. And ESPN couldn't protect the league, and all these entities couldn't protect the league. Congratulations, you reap what you sow.
So what happens next? If Kathy Engelbert responds to the letter by July 24th with answers that satisfy Congress, maybe this goes away quietly. But if her answers are vague or defensive or try to downplay what's been happening, Congress will escalate. That means hearings. That means testimony. That means Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, sitting next to Engelbert trying to explain why the NBA is subsidizing a league that might be violating federal civil rights laws. And that's a nightmare scenario for both leagues, because once you're testifying under oath, everything becomes discoverable. Emails, internal memos, referee reports, discipline decisions, all of it.
The shit has hit the fan. Peace, I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching.
The league tried to control this story by keeping it in their bubble. They tried to let ESPN and friendly media outlets frame it as physical basketball and rookies getting welcomed to the league. But the story went viral everywhere except MSNBC. It broke out of the sports media bubble and into the political world, and now it's a federal issue. Congratulations, WNBA. You reap what you sow. Do you think the WNBA will actually clean up the league before Congress forces them to, or is this about to get much worse? Drop your take in the comments, hit subscribe if you want to see how this plays out, and I'll see you in the next one.